Are you a fan of cornbread, but you don't want to have just a tiny little taste in order to keep your bites, points, and calories in check? I have the perfect solution for you here. These are my Blueberry Cornbread Muffins. Whether you're a fan of sweet cornbread or non-sweet cornbread, these are the perfect balance between the two. And I'll be showing you how to make them coming up next. Hello and welcome to my kitchen. My name is Roy. I am a home cook and amateur baker, and I am here on this channel sharing recipes that have helped me to lose over 125 pounds, whether those recipes are mine or someone else's. Now today is going to be one of mine. I'd mentioned it in a previous video that I was going to be doing my Blueberry Cornbread Muffins. Now this is one of our new favorites. This is one of the three that I was working on. I did some experiments all in one day. I did the banana pudding, which aired a short time ago, the coffee bar Susan, which aired last week, and now this is the end of those three recipes that I was experimenting with. These are great as a breakfast, as a snack. They're very low bites and low calorie for a muffin. So stick around and you will find out all that information at the end. But for right now, let us go over the ingredients. So I have here 1 cup of cornmeal, which is about 6 ounces. I'm using the Quaker cornmeal. Different ones may weigh differently depending on how they're processed, but this one's about 6 ounces. And I have 1 cup of all-purpose flour, and that is about 5 ounces if you weigh it. And I did a video a while back all about measurements. I'll throw a card up here in case anyone's interested. But this is why I said the common misconception about 1 cup being 8 ounces is only for fluid ounces. It's for water, milk, that kind of thing. Then 1 cup equals 8 ounces. As far as dry ingredients, that is not the case. The cornmeal is a cup, but it's coming up as 6 ounces. The flour is a cup, but it's coming up as 5 ounces. So it all depends with dry items what you are weighing. So don't go by the 8 ounces is 1 cup when it comes to dry. That is only for wet items. Continuing with our dry items, however, I have 1/2 cup of vanilla protein powder. If you don't want to use the protein powder, you can just replace that 1/2 cup with some more flour. It will alter the bites most likely, but not by much. But I like the texture that I get from using the protein powder, as well as getting a little extra protein in my diet. I have 1 cup, 8 ounces of almond milk, unsweetened almond milk, 2 eggs. These are both at room temperature, the milk and the eggs. Always have them at room temperature, as I say, because they are much easier to come together when you're mixing them than if you use them directly out of the fridge. If you don't have time, which sometimes I decide at the last moment to make something, what you can do is just throw this into the microwave for maybe 30 seconds, mix it around, temp it if you have a thermometer, and then you might need another 30 seconds to get it to about 65 to 70. For the eggs, what you would do is take them out of the fridge, put them in a little bowl, fill them with hot water, let them sit for about 5 minutes. I will then dump that water, put in a little bit more hot water, and let them sit for another couple of minutes, and that will get them close enough to room temperature. So there are little workarounds if you decide, oh, I want to make those, but oh, now I gotta let everything sit out. You don't. You can finagle something. So just microwave the milk, warm up the eggs in a little hot water, you'll be fine. I have 3/4 cup of sugar replacement. It's a 1-to-1 replacement for sugar. If you're using like stevia, I believe is not 1-to-1. You just have to get it to equal 3/4 cup of sugar. I have 2 teaspoons of baking powder, not baking soda, baking powder, and 3/4 teaspoon of salt. The other star of the show, I have some blueberries here. Now I have already rinsed these off and made sure there were no little stems on them, but I put them back in this container to show you that this container, which says it's 551 milliliters, or 1 pint, is equal to the 2 cups that you need for this recipe. So if you go to the store, you just buy one of these pint containers. That's exactly what you need for this recipe. So you don't have to worry about measuring it out. If you have one of these, you have enough to make it. Now just make sure it's the pint container, because I do have smaller and larger containers of blueberries, but the 1 pint, about this size, should be perfect. And I have my baking spray. I've already sprayed my 12-cup muffin pan, and I mentioned this previously, that cup just means that it's cup shaped. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is a cup measure. So when I say 12-cup muffin pan, I'm just talking about the shape, not the measurement. But I have sprayed it well with some baking spray. I prefer using the baking spray just because that flour that's in there does help it to release a little bit more. If you wanted to, you could just use cooking spray. You might want to dust a little bit of flour, like just put it in a little sieve and dust it in there, so you're not getting a lot of flour in there, but you are getting a little barrier. You could do it without the flour with just the cooking spray, but I just like the added insurance of that flour. All right, so let me shuffle a couple of things around and we will get started. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just mix together all of the dry ingredients. You can sift if you prefer. I take the lazy way out and I'm just using a whisk. And I am going to add the sugar replacement in with the dry ingredients. If you wanted to, you could mix it in with the wet. It honestly doesn't matter either way, still works. So this time it's going in with the dry and the salt and the baking powder. Now just the lazy man's sifting. We're just going to combine all of this until it's basically a uniform color. It's going to become a pale yellow as the flour and cornmeal kind of like disperse evenly throughout. And that's all there is to that. Let's move this aside. We're going to need this whisk because we're going to bring in our milk. Now the reason I have it in my big Pyrex measuring cup is so I can mix everything in there. I'm going to add in the eggs first, just so I can break up those yolks and get it a little incorporated before I add in the applesauce. Now I know it's unusual for me to be using applesauce. I do use it, but often you'll see me using the pumpkin puree. But in this case, I just think the applesauce is much more liquid. So I think it gives the cornbread much more moisture than the pumpkin because of the extra liquid. Typically, if you're replacing pumpkin for the applesauce, I usually would suggest reducing it by maybe a tablespoon or 2 just because it's more liquid than pumpkin. Or you could even reduce it down in the stovetop. Then we're just going to combine all this wet together. Then we're going to bring back in our dry. This comes together really quickly. And pour that in. I'm going to wise up and switch to my spatula and incorporate it that way, because for one thing, you're less likely to overmix it, and you're not going to get batter stuck in the little whisk loops. So now I'm going to whisk this just to smooth things out a little bit more, and you have a little leeway with the cornmeal in there, because if it was all flour, it'd be much more likely to develop some gluten, which is not what we are looking for. I need you still, and we're going to add in our blueberries. Now, as I said, I've already drained and rinsed these. Now, you don't have to use blueberries. I'm sure you could get away with using other berries if you wanted to. If you were to use strawberries, I would probably cut them into sizes about approximating a blueberry and dry them off on some paper towel because they can release a lot of moisture and you don't want these to get gummy. So I would cut them up, lay them out on paper towel, pat them with another paper towel to get some of that moisture out. You do have moisture in the blueberries, but they're more contained by the skin. Once you cut a strawberry, the juices are much more easily flowing than in a blueberry. So I would lay them out, paper towel, blot them, dry them off a little bit. What I really want to try is some cranberries. I haven't tried those yet, but I think cranberries or even a mixture of blueberries and cranberries would be good. But that is a test for another day. Right now I'm going to bring in my muffin tin here, and you're going to fill these completely to the top. Sometimes it'll say about 2/3 full, 3/4 full, but this one should come pretty much to the top. But what I'm going to do is go through, fill each cavity first with one of these scoops, and then go back and fill them up. And I will show you what they look like once we're ready to put them in the oven. Okay, so they are all filled. I'm just going to clean up any of these little drips just so that they don't burn, because those little bits don't have any other batter protecting them from burning. They're just sitting there by their lonesome. So now these are going to go into my 375-degree oven for 18 to 22 minutes. It's a kind of a slightly wide range only because some ovens do cook hotter than others. I believe mine went for 22 minutes the first time. So halfway through, I'm going to rotate them this way so that if there is any hot spot in the oven, it's going to cook more evenly by rotating them around. So I'll probably do them for about 10 minutes before I rotate the pan. Then when they come out, I will show you what they look like. Be right back. Okay, here we have them, Blueberry Cornbread Muffins. Now, what we have to do is let them sit on the cooling rack in the pan for about 20 minutes before we try to remove them. If you try to remove them too soon, they're just going to start to fall apart because their structure is not fully set yet until they've cooled a bit. So we're going to give this 20 minutes, and I'll be back to show you what they look like once they're out of the pan. Okay, so it has been 20 minutes. So I'm going to take my cooling rack, put it on top of the muffins, and flip them over. And if I drop it, hopefully they'll all plop out. There they are. Now I'm just going to turn them right side up. And now you could eat them right now, but I prefer letting them cool for about another 20 minutes, just so that some of that moisture that's on the bottoms here from being in the pan will evaporate. But they're definitely cool enough that you could eat them now. Actually, let me crack one of these open. It is still a little warm, so bear with me, but we can see the interior of these muffins loaded with blueberries and with a delicious corn flavor that is not too sweet. I know some people are not fans of sweet cornbread, and some people are not fans of unsweet cornbread. I think this is the perfect balance between the two, so it'll have something for everyone. But as we're waiting for them to cool, let me go over the nutrition facts for you. Now this obviously makes 12 muffins, and if you wanted, you could do this as a loaf. I just find it, because if you've seen this channel at all, you know that I have a difficulty with portioning things out when I have to cut them. So for me, muffins are just easier. But if you wanted to do it as a loaf, you definitely could do it that way as well. Now per muffin, it is going to be 2 bites or 2 old Blue Points. I am on the Healthi, formerly iTrack Bites, Better Balance plan, which is equivalent to the old WW Blue plan. Based on personal points, based on another Healthi plan, you will probably get different results. But on those 2, that is the number that I'm getting, just 2 bites per muffin. Now if you're following calories, each one of these would be 126 calories. And if you are following macros, the fat would be 1.6 grams, the carbs would be 38.1 grams, the fiber would be 2 grams, and the protein would be 5.8 grams, and that is because we did use the protein powder. If you replace the protein powder with flour, you will obviously get a different result there. But there you have them, my Blueberry Cornbread Muffins. I hope that you will give these a try. They are so good. And if you liked this recipe and this video, I hope that you will give me a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet and you are looking for recipes that can help you on a weight loss journey. And share any of these videos if you think there's someone out there who would be interested in this content. Also hit the notification bell for the next time I upload any sort of video. I have recently cut back to doing 1 recipe video a week, not including obviously the tag that I usually do on Tuesdays. But there may on occasion be a time when I can throw in another video, so make sure you hit that notification bell just in case. But comment down below, are you a cornbread person? Do you prefer sweet cornbread or non-sweet cornbread? And would you like to try blueberries, or are you going to try one of the other possibilities? Now I have not tried the strawberries or the cranberries yet, but if anyone does, please let me know down below how it turns out. Now you will find this recipe on my blog, which is linked down below in the description box. Now if you're not sure how to access the description box, right under this video, you'll see the channel name, and underneath that some words, and then it'll say show more. Just click show more and it'll open up the description box. And there you will find a link to my recipe blog where you can find this recipe and all of my recipes. You can also find my Amazon storefront. If you see anything that I'm using that you are curious about finding, it may be there. And also down there is my Built Bar rewards and my Fetch rewards if you have any interest in checking those out. Also, you will find there the links to my social media. Here is my Instagram handle, and there are 2 Facebook groups that I am part of. One is mine, Recipes with Roy, and the other one is Finding Our Way, W-E-I-G-H. And that one I co-admin with Jennifer Lynn from the Jennifer Lynn channel, as well as Bree Coleman from Balancing Life with Bree. So join us over there for lots of great tips, tricks, recipes, support, and people. So I think it's time for Paul and I to enjoy a nice little midday snack, and I hope that you will soon be doing the same. So until next time, bye.